right, let's go over the problem set that you're going to do. And we're doing one specific problem in the problem set for lost letter. So in this case, and I just want you to know this going in, I don't provide a solution like I did for attendance. The purpose of submitting early is that you can get feedback and adjust to a correct solution. I do cover how to do a join for this in week 9 attendance, so just FYI. All right, so for this result, and I ended up putting this content in here because some students, when they change to doing, because you're going to do a static query and you're going to do a nested subquery for the same problem. When you're doing a nested subquery, when you see that, that means one or more, and in this case, I'm just going to tell you it's more subqueries to answer the problem, okay? And as I had said before, right, limit your SQL to what we've covered. You have everything you need to answer this. The problem is answerable. You wouldn't, I had some students in the past try to brute force by updating the data, and that's not your solution. Okay, so in this case, here's the instruction. Now you saw this when you went over attendance, but in this case, I've added a few things. This is actually for this spring 2026 semester. I've added a link to the problem set. And the reason I've done that is to, and in this case, right, here's the top of it, right? The problem we're going to solve, which I'll talk about in a minute, because within this package's problem set, we're only tackling one for this one, okay? So this just shows some of the output, kind of like what we had already done, okay? So you already have the database as well, and so what this gives you, which is really good to study the ERD, the relationships between the different tables, right? So we outputted the tables already, so we have drivers make scans, scans of packages, packages from address, addresses to packages, okay? And then addresses at scans. So there's various ways you can read that, but what's important to understand is the relationships, okay? The other thing that's really nice here too, and I don't provide this, so that's why I'm showing, is actually identifying what the data in each table is, okay? And this is really important to understand. I show you how to output the first 10 records, but it really is helpful to come here and understand what each means. So the contents of the package, as an example, in the packages table, the to and from address, okay? All right, so really good to do this again. At this point, you're not following what CS50 does, but I just wanted to give you that overview so you have those links to go look at, okay? All right, so I'm going to scroll down to where now we're going to move into your area for this problem set. So you're going to tackle this problem two ways. One, in the way that we learned with Carter. He calls them static. I call them, maybe actually he calls them one at a time. I call them static. But it's writing in queries that actually hard code data to get to an answer. And the other one is a nested query. Okay, and actually this should say, yeah, good, I get to fix this, a nested subquery. Okay. So you're tackling the same problem with two different approaches. So my clerk, my name is Annika. I live at Somerville. Not long ago, I sent a special letter out to my friend Varsha. She started a new chapter of her life at 2 Finnegan Street, Uptown. Here's a clue. This address, let me tell you, is a bit tricky to get right the first time. So this is one of your first hints about how you're going to go approach to answer the question, is knowing that the address, if you don't know exactly what that address was, how would you go at it? Okay, we've learned how to do that. The letter is so they wrote a note, right? So it's a congratulatory note, a cheery little paper hug from me to her, celebrate it. Can you tell me if it made its way to her? And again, this is different than this is the same problem, but unlike CS50, you're going to do it differently, right? So what you're going to answer is, what time was the package picked up and dropped off, including timestamps and related action. So here's actually the correct output, right? And so you don't use this to find the answer, but when you actually find the answer, this is what your final output should look like, okay? Or this is what it should produce, okay? So now that we've covered that, so first you're going to write your static queries, right? So you're going to, in your packages, you're going to create a new lostq.sql, copy one of your previous ones, update your proof of work to POW lost, and update your bash reference to say run this to output to your file. Okay, so make sure you make those changes. And then in your README file, you're going to create a heading 2 for static letter, static query is for lost letter proof of effort. Okay, so then you're going to write static queries, meaning one at a time. So you answer part of it, so you have to figure out, okay, how do I approach this? What do I know about this query? And then ultimately, how do I get to answer this to output this? Now, here's your clue I've given you. There should be at least 4 queries here. So you would write your first query, attempt your first query. Again, like before, you're also keeping track of your proof of effort. Okay, so then after each query, right? So again, at least 4. I think I've had most students make it in 4. So if you're at 3, you probably don't have the right answer. Okay, so then for each query, you're doing your proof of work, right? Your proof of effort, your proof of work, and your get workflows. And so for the first one, here's your commit message, right? So you would write it, right? Do that proof of effort, proof of work, and then do a commit message, and then you would do your next one. So you should end up with at least 4 commits here. Okay, so just to remind you, really important, and I happen to have my code space, and in here, right, here's the heading that you're going to have. And in this case, this is where you just copy and paste whatever you've attempted, your attempts, right? So ultimately, what I should see is quite a bit of content here where you've attempted to get to the right answer. And yes, I evaluate this. Remember, this is worth 30 points of your work, okay? So really important, and it shows the progression of thought over time. Okay, so let me come back to here, okay? So, by the way, after each one, comment out that first query once you get it, right? Before moving on to the next static query. Now, at this point, you can take a break, okay? But this is where the more you do, right? And by the way, you need to have at least more than one here, right? Again, at least 4, right, to get this break. So you do want to submit your commit history for this folder that we've now created, right? And so next, once you do that, now you're going to write your nested subquery, okay? So now we're going to write one query that will answer, one long query that has subqueries that will answer the same problem. And here's one approach or one thing I've seen in past students, is they generally can find a right answer in doing it this way, but then they don't use this way of thinking to write your subquery, okay? So if you think about it, if I'm going to need 4 queries to answer, right, hard-coded static queries to answer this one problem, then when I'm doing a nested query, right, so nested subquery, I should see those pieces, those 4 queries somewhere in that work, okay? Okay, so now this one, just like the other one, right, you're going to do your proof of your heading for your heading 2 for your nested queries. I'll fix this, subqueries for the lost letter, right? Then attempt, right? There should be 1. Actually, it should not be at least, should be, no, I said there's 1 nested subquery here, okay? Should be the same output. I'll say this again, should be the same output, okay? Now, by the way, you can actually go look at what I had you create for where that output comes from. Okay, so it actually comes from the scan table, but you can't just go after that time or the action. Okay, so what you have to do is actually think through. Let's see, if I have an address, right? So that's how you have to think about this. And this is where understanding the relationships, as I've told you before, can very much help you walk through this problem. Okay. So comment out the query. Oh, actually, I should, this is wrong. I'll fix that. I'm glad I saw it, right? Oh, actually, no, I scrolled. Oh, yeah, sorry. I had scrolled up a little bit here. So now one last thing you want to do here is in your README file, you want to create a My Experience and write about doing this work, right? What you ran into, any challenges you had. Again, the sooner you submit, the better, because you can get help, right? And that's going to be really important when you're doing this particular problem set. Okay, I hope this overview helps you, and I'll talk to you later.